Hello, this is the Figments in Time podcast. I've started out with an so I know this is going to be a real take this time. My name is Lewis. I'm at Disney Pick a Day on Twitter, and she is.
I'm Val, and I'm at Val Pal Mickey on Twitter.
And this is going to be a podcast of pictures. We're going to put up pictures. We're going to tell stories about them, and we named it Figments in Time, but because, well, one, we're fans of Figment. We're not gonna lie, but also because a figment is defined as something that may or may not have occurred, right? It's sort of a thing that possibly it's a memory, a figment of memory. And the stories we're going to tell are going to be true as we believe them to be. We're not going to make up stories and say, oh, when we were on that VIP tour, the guide, he was just really great. We haven't done that. Okay, that's not the case.
No,
but the stories will be as true as possible. Sometimes I'll start telling a story, and the other person on the other little camera there is going to go, "What? That never happened." And that's just the way it is.
You do not have the best memory in the world, so sometimes you forget exactly how things happened, or you'll kind of forget exactly the way things went. So.
Hence the reason I've taken over 100,000 pictures of Disney in the past 20 years. And not many of those started out in the early days because, well, our first trip, we lost the pictures of. They were on film. I don't know what happened to them. They're just gone.
We don't. Yeah. Broke my heart.
The next ones, cameras were more expensive. Memory was not as cheap. So we only probably took hundreds of pictures. Nowadays, when I go, I take at least 1,000 pictures a day. So I want to share a few more of these. I already share them on Twitter. We'll share these on Twitter. These will be on. These have been on Twitter the last few days before we do this, and just want to tell a few stories. So let's get into it. So on Monday, I put up this picture, and I love the way this picture looks. It makes me feel like I'm standing all alone. I know I'm not. There's like 1,000 people behind me just running into me going, get out of my way. I want to get to the next ride. And I'll be them 10 seconds after I take this picture. But this is a couple of rides we both really like, but a couple of areas.
Okay. Well, okay. So. Yeah, I started to say the areas you might say that you like. This is not your favorite attraction at Epcot by any means.
Living with the Land is not my favorite. I love that ride. The thrills, the chills.
This is not Living with the Land.
The hot peppers? Well, it is to the right. If you walk up.
Yes. Well, I said that this area might be one of your favorite areas, but Journey into Imagination is not your favorite attraction.
Okay, perhaps not.
Right.
So what do you want to tell people about this? Her nickname is Val Pal Mickey, and she got this because, well, if you ever seen a Pal Mickey, you could push his tummy or hold his hand. There's one up here on my screen.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
And he would tell you things, tell you jokes, tell you stories, and he would tell you details. Well, as we're walking through the parks and we come upon something, she'll go, oh, and these flowers, they were produced by these people. Because she's A, read things, and B, she's gone to the tours and things. I don't like to ruin the magic necessarily sometimes, but no, I see flowers. They're purple. They're cool. I like that. The ride's good.
He does not go on the tours with me. I am so low on the tours because I love to know the history and the magic behind it for a lot of different reasons. And he does not so much like the walking and the listening, and he would rather be taking pictures. So I do get excited. I get excited. It's the education part of my background. I enjoy telling people about exciting things, and there's so many wonderful details in the parks. But Journey into Imagination has always been one of my favorite attractions. And so you really just do it because you know how much I love Figment, not necessarily this version of the attraction, but how much I love Figment.
I like the skunk smell too. I think that's pretty awesome.
See, no.
That's my favorite part.
I first rode Journey into Imagination when I was in college. I went with some friends and we went to Epcot, and The thing I think that makes Figment so special to me and what makes this attraction so special was the way that it really did just inspire you with Dreamfinder and Figment and all of the things. And I remember that I rode the attraction and was just absolutely mesmerized by it, by just the animatronics and by all of the things that that was happening in the ride at the time. But it also really inspired me to be creative again, where I had not been creative for several years. And so I actually left this attraction, went to a gift shop that was nearby and bought a sketchbook and pencils and started drawing again on that trip. And so it truly inspired me to do something creative that I had not done in several years, and loved it so much, just enjoyed the inspiration. And so Figment became one of my favorite characters, and this attraction became one of my favorites. Fast forward many years to our first visit to Epcot, which I probably was 2001. 2001. And it had changed tremendously. Dreamfinder was nowhere to be found. It really didn't give you that same inspiration, but it did still have Figment in it. So anytime I would experience this attraction, it would remind me of the creativity that I found in myself after riding the original attraction.
And it had Eric Idle. I mean, how can you beat Eric Idle? Who's this Dreamfinder guy? I don't know. I didn't go to Disney World until 2001. That was my first trip, so I had no idea about Dreamfinder, and I don't know. The videos don't do it justice, I assume.
No, because they were taken before cameras were really able to get a great picture of an attraction. So yes, the videos that are out there are not awesome.
We're not doing this live, but I just sensed people leaving when I said that about Dreamfinder.
Dreamfinder, for those of us who remember him, we remember this attraction really well. And there's a lot of great stories about this attraction. And so maybe we'll share some more later on. But it definitely, like I said, it was a defining moment in my own personal journey. And so it became a special attraction to me.
Right. So we'll be back to that eventually. But let's go to Tuesday. And Tuesday we put up a picture of the Haunted Mansion. I like the Haunted Mansion for many reasons. It's a great thing to take pictures of. It's a great thing to attempt to take pictures of inside. I have tens of thousands of pictures of the inside of Haunted Mansion. They're just terrible. I love how it looks and how, the ghosts and this stuff inside. But the outside is really, it's really just a massive looking building to be. And it's funny if you get behind the mansion, you see how much bigger the building actually is than it looks.
Right.
But
well, it's just so cool because it looks like you could just walk up to that door and knock and what's so amazing is how immaculate the outside of the building is compared to how does not have that same immaculate feel on the inside because of the cobwebs and the dust and the spookiness of it. But how Walt really wanted the outside of the mansion, to be pristine. And so it's really cool.
And if you ever get to take a trip to Disneyland, the outside looks totally different, but the inside feels like you're in the same house. That's also a surreal experience. Anything else you want to say about the Haunted Mansion?
The Haunted Mansion is my favorite attraction. It has been since we started going to the parks as a family. We loved it so much. I loved it so much because the detail in it is just, I don't think we'll ever find an attraction that will be built in the future in the way that this attraction was built, with just the detail and just everything about it, the hidden Mickeys and the storyline and just the way the Imagineers worked out every detail of the mansion. And so it's just my favorite. It's also one of my favorites, I think, because I just have this amazing memory of our daughter and I we had gone to the Magic Kingdom on the 4th of July, and we actually arrived on the 4th of July. And when we arrived in time for the fireworks. And it was incredibly crowded. It was incredibly busy that day, obviously. And you just didn't have the energy to make it through the whole night. You were just exhausted.
I was older then.
You were.
Much older.
You were much older then. And so you went back to the resort, and our daughter and I decided to stay for the evening and ride. And we went to the Haunted Mansion, and there wasn't really a line. You could get on, and then immediately you could get off and then get right back on again. And so we decided to ride it several times because there was just so much detail, and I wanted to see it all, and I really wanted to take it in. And the second time I think that we went through, or the third time, all of a sudden there was this human hand that came down from the top of the doom buggy right in front of our faces, and it scared us to death. We screamed, and we realized that the butler that had guided us onto the doom buggy actually got onto the back of the doom buggy and was riding along with us. And he reached his hand down to scare us. And when we screamed, he jumped off. And so we got off the attraction and got right back on again. And then the next time he hopped on, and his hand came from the right side of the doom buggy. So we rode several times in a row, and every time we would get back on, he would get on, and his hand would come from a different direction and startle us. And it was just silly fun. And we just had such a blast. And I actually asked a cast member several years later about it because it was just such a great memory for us. And she was like, "Oh yeah, we can't do that anymore. So you won't ever experience that again." But it was just this little added kind of fun moment that felt like it was just for us during that evening. And so it just really made the Haunted Mansion even that much more special to me over the years because of that memory.
And that is also the last time we will Butler bash here too. Butlers are all generally nice. They don't all do it. They're not always murderers. But that guy.
Well, no, he wasn't. He wasn't a murderer.
He was gonna kill you.
He was making the attraction more exciting for us, and we appreciated that.
And a murder would make it more exciting for everybody on the ride, right? I mean,
see, this is the Figment part of the podcast, right? Sorry,
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so let's see what Wednesday.
Let's move on.
Wednesday took us to a restaurant.
The Brown Derby.
The Brown Derby, in particular. The Brown Derby Lounge, you can see here, that area.
But I love the Brown Derby. It's one of my favorite restaurants in all of Walt Disney World resorts and parks. I think because it's a real restaurant and one that, gives you that feeling of being back in time in a place that you had heard about and that you read about. And I've always loved that time period in movies. And so for me, I loved it when we would go to the Brown Derby, but obviously it's a big deal to go to dinner. It takes a lot of time. It's, it's very expensive. The meal is huge. And so for us to have found the patio where typically, and right now because of COVID and everything, they're not serving food on the patio, but hopefully that will come.
Disappointment last time.
It really was. And I'm hoping that it comes back again because it was just so great because you couldn't get the full menu, but they had obviously a lounge menu, and you could get smaller portions. Like we could get a smaller portion of the Cobb salad, and you could get sliders and different entrees, but they were just the very appetizer type version of the entrees. And so, and the grapefruit cake, and I don't know, it's so great because you can experience the Brown Derby, but you don't have to have the huge meal if you're not wanting the huge meal, but you're also outside. So you still see, the Star Wars show that's going on in the courtyard, and you can still see people going by and hear the music and feel like you don't feel like you're losing a lot of time away from the parks when you're eating out on the patio.
It is always nice when things are blowing up outside of where you're having dinner. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie about that. My only problem with the signature restaurant sometimes is you get a lot of noise. It's not quite the experience that I expect from a fantastic restaurant as you get at the Brown Derby. But yeah, I agree. It's one of the better restaurants. Certainly the best restaurant in Hollywood Studios, but that's not exactly a big challenge at times, right? Any
There's some
comments
good
on
places. I love, there's a lot of restaurants that I really enjoy at Hollywood Studios.
well,
So
Ronto
I don't
roasters
agree
for
with you
sure.
that. Well, that's okay.
Maybe we should pause and go get a Ronto wrap. We'll be back in like 2 weeks.
If we could, I would.
Now, if they sold Ronto wraps at Brown Derby, that just would be like, perfect, right?
No, not even a little bit.
Maybe not.
No.
Okay. On Thursday, it's a picture of probably the most
That's right.
fun thing we've ever done at Disney World. And that is we're with these people over here on the left, and we're walking past this group. I don't know who these people were.
No, we are part of the group. We were there for our
group.
meetup. Yes. Our
that's us
Disc
back
Twitter
here.
meetup.
Hiding behind. It's something that Jocelyn at Disney Gratitude won. I think one instead of the E. And she put together this meetup, and we just had a fantastic time.
It was so
great.
We
met the Dillos, we met the Monorails, we met Hardy, Sabra, there's Angela Dahlgren, there's just, everybody there. Casey and Eddie. I see Eddie back there. How do you miss the guy with his arms up in the street? Find Matt too. I found Matt finally. He's hiding there. Just was a great time, and it's been a year since that occurred, and we were supposed to be meeting this week to see them again.
We were, and so sad that we can't be there. We were celebrating Jen's birthday from Dillo's Diz, and so that's why we had the party hats. Jocelyn is so special, and she thought of everything, and so she knew we were going to be there on Jen's birthday, and so she brought the hats, and we had the little whistle, the blowers, and all of that kind of thing, and so she made it so special, so it was so fun. But it was so funny because I had really not been, I told the story before, I really had not been involved in Disney Twitter as much as you had at the time. We had been so busy over the last few years, and I was finishing dissertation, and we were moving, and so much happened. And so I would hear you talk about these people, and occasionally when we were traveling, I would listen to podcasts with you, but I wasn't really as plugged into the whole Disney Twitter as you were at the time. And so when you told me we were going to meet with this group of people while we were there, it kind of freaked me out a little bit, because honestly, I was starstruck, because I've been hearing these people talk on their podcasts and listen to them. And I could not figure out why in the world they would even want to meet us. Like, I couldn't figure out why we were even included in this amazing group. And so I was very, I was very nervous. And so I had injured my back a few months before. And so the only reason why I was able to go on that trip was the doctor had made me promise that we would do a scooter, which I had never done before. And that was making me super nervous. And so I was uncomfortable and having a really hard time with my back at the time. So that kind of added to it. But once I met this amazing group of people, I got so excited about Disney Twitter. And that was when I started Val Pal Mickey and started really following people and really kind of closing in on following people a little bit more closely and getting to know them better. And they have just become incredibly great friends and important people in our lives. So it's neat to see this picture.
If you need a scooter at Disney, let me just say, get a scooter at Disney. It's a fantastic experience. It changes the way you see. Like, I've probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Well, in that area, I could not have walked 5, 7 miles a day. And back when we were talking about back in the July trip that we were talking about, I at the time, my mobility would allow me to walk around the parks once. And you get to there and you're like, okay, I'm going back. And then once I got the scooter, I was able to see everything. I probably walked even more than I would have anyways. But you get more and more. It became addictive. And now I'm actually standing to do this podcast today. It's just a lot of work. I'm not crying. I'm just rubbing my face. It's not that emotional.
No,
But
they're not
yeah,
that
it's,
emotional.
don't be afraid to go to the parks just because you have to, be in a scooter or whatever. It's
They really are very, you can learn them to use them very quickly, and they are very helpful. It wasn't that I just had never been on one before, even though you had for years. I had just never ridden on one before. And so it was frustrating to me because I felt like I couldn't keep up with people in the same way, and I couldn't talk with people, and it made me feel a little bit more awkward. Not that the scooters are a bad thing, because honestly, they really are incredibly helpful for people who have mobility issues. And it allowed me to be able to go on this trip, because we would have had to have canceled if I did not have the opportunity to get a scooter.
and you can, have this picture where I don't know what you're doing here, but
I can't remember what they're called, the blower thing.
oh
Where
yeah,
we were,
okay, I see. Oh
I
yeah,
was,
she has
yeah,
one too.
yeah,
Two people
yeah.
had those.
Jocelyn has one too. Yeah. They said to blow them, so I did, and so does Angela, I think. If
Nice.
that's
Yeah, that is her. That is her.
And so yes, that was our instruction, was that if we had one.
Okay, so Friday, we're gonna go continuing on in this whole personal level. Most of the pictures I post on my Twitter account don't have people in them, because I don't like want to remember people. I don't remember specific moments, because usually the specific moments at Disney are sort of a mess if you look at them. There's people everywhere. It's raining. You're uncomfortable. I mean, the frowns. I have so many pictures of my family members with frowns on their faces, like, why am I here? And I don't love taking pictures of people standing in front of things. Here's me standing in front of a shelf. Okay. I mean, what's the big deal? I want to see, what's happening. I want to fill in the blanks for myself. But this picture is a little more personal, a little more real. And that it was taken during a parade, and just a perfect chance moment.
This is one of my favorite memories from Disney ever. Mainly because it involves our kids. We have our daughter and son-in-law, and our granddaughters were with us on this trip. We take them as often as we can. And they are, in this picture, you can see my daughter and my granddaughter. At the time, it was not too long after the first Frozen movie came out, and our granddaughter Addison was obsessed with Elsa and obsessed with Frozen. And so when we were planning this trip, I had to take her to the boutique, to the Bippity Boppity boutique. I just wanted that experience with her. And so obviously she chose Elsa as her princess. And so she had the most special time there. They treated her truly like a princess. The way they did her hair and her nails, and they helped her, pick the outfit and her shoes and her crown, and the way that they just took care of everything. It was just the most spectacular time that my daughter and my granddaughter and I had at the boutique. Our younger granddaughter was not quite 2 at the time, and she was too young to be able to do it. You don't see her in the picture, but we had purchased her an Anna costume to wear with Addison being Elsa. And so, but she was too young to go to the boutique. And so anyway, we just had a blast, and it was right before the parade. And so you had saved us a spot to see the parade, and Addison was just really super excited about the parade. And so we had just finished at the boutique and got there. And so as the parade's going, Addison's just enjoying everything so much. And we're right there at the rope, and she's seen all the princesses come. And then if you've seen this particular parade, the float that Anna and Elsa are on spins. And so one side is Tiana and Naveen, and then the other side is Anna and Elsa. So when it came around the corner, and we're standing there at the corner across from the Hall of Presidents, when it came around the corner, it was Tiana and Naveen. And I just had this panic moment of, she's not going to get to see Anna and Elsa, because I didn't think it would spin, but while it was in front of us, because the way it was angled. And so as it began to spin, it's sort of moving across from us, but we were waving and Anna looked down and Elsa was turned the other direction. So she was looking towards the Hall of Presidents. And Anna happened to turn around and she saw Addison. And when she saw Addison dressed like Elsa, she grabbed Elsa by the arm and pulled her over and pointed Addison out. And so you can see in the picture where they're both looking at Addison. And so Elsa looks and points at Addison and then kind of points to herself and has this like really big smile on her face. Like she can't believe that Addison looks just like her. And it was just this moment of Addison looking at me after they get past us saying, she saw me, like, Elsa actually saw me and said hello. And so it was just that perfect magical moment where, she just was seen, and it was just so special and so exciting. I love magical moments. I love magical moments. And that was what this was, because it wasn't like we had waited in line for a meet and greet. This was just one of those, we were watching the parade, hoping that we could at least wave, but she actually gave her this interaction that was special. That's Disney.
That was fun. Mm-hmm. And as I recall, that Rice Krispie treat there, I had one too. It was
I think you finished that one. I don't think Addison could finish that one at the time. So I think
I remember it as I had my own. I'm just saying, probably hers too. Right?
Sorry to say you probably got both, but yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, that was just perfect timing.
Yeah, it was.
I got a lot of really bad parade pictures in my camera roll as well, because they're moving, and moving stuff gets complicated.
Yeah. But this is a great picture. And it was perfect too, because you caught the moment. You caught that exact moment of her talking to her. So it was so great.
Okay. Saturday. It's a picture of possibly my favorite ride possibly my favorite ride. I love this ride, Toy Story Midway Mania. Is it Toy Story? It's Toy Story Mania now, right? They took the Midway out.
Yes. At
hate that
Hollywood Studios, they took out the Midway because it's not really the Midway anymore. So
it's just a fun 3D ride, and I took this picture from the stairs. It was one of the few times, one of the first times I was taking the stairs, and I was just snapping pictures. Do you have anything to say?
I don't enjoy this attraction as much as I used to. And I know it's because you love it so much, but I think the reason why I don't is because we can't ride it as often as we used to. And so it makes me sad, because it takes, one of the things that Liz and I try to do whenever we're writing Toy Story Mania is that we're working for points, and we know a lot of the secret ways to get extra points. Cast members have given us little hints and clues over time, and we did a little bit of research on it. And so we know how to work together to really try to rack up the points, because we're shooting for those high scores. But honestly, it takes me a couple of times of writing it before we get into a rhythm, because we don't get to write it very often. So, there'll be, months in between when we've written. And so it takes me a few minutes to get through. And so the thing that I loved is when we still had paper fast passes, we learned how to work that system really well. And so we would get in line and write it at rope drop, and we would probably get a good 2 rides in, and then we would get our fast pass and get back in line and write it one more time. And then by then it would be about time, for the fast pass, and then we would write it, and then we would get another fast pass when we got off, and we would wait in line because it was still early. So it would still just be maybe a 30 to 40 minute, anything under an hour, we were good. And we would go. And so we had the system where we could write it 5 or 6 times in a row in the mornings when we first got to the park for rope drop, back when it first opened.
Yeah, and those would be during the historic extra magic hour mornings that you could
Right.
ride a couple of times and then get a fast pass, ride one more time, get that. And you could get 5 rides in pretty much every time.
And literally, we would ride until we were so hungry because we hadn't eaten breakfast, because there was a breakfast place that we loved at Hollywood Studios. So we would always try to ride as many times as we could before we were just like, okay, we can't do this anymore. Because then too, the line would maybe be an hour and a half in the morning. It wouldn't be, where now, rides like Slinky Dog from the first thing in the morning are often, 4 hours right at the beginning of the day.
We live in Tennessee, and at one time I actually saw the end of it from my window. It's the line for
So
Slinky
the line
Dog.
was so long. No, but now with the magic bands and the way that you do fast passes, it's not quite the same to me. Yeah.
Which
So
is
it's been
good
a long,
and bad.
it's
But
been a long time since we tried to do more than one ride at a time.
probably the best time when we rode this was at Disneyland, when we stayed at the Grand Californian.
Well, yeah.
And in the mornings there, you get to go into California. It's just the people at the Disney hotels. And California Adventure is just amazingly empty. And it was just like, you walk in, you keep going, you keep going. And probably we're like, I think we've ridden this enough. Let's go do something else. And this was an hour we probably ridden 3 or 4 times. And then we come back and ride it again. And then it gets busy and it's nuts. But
yeah. But yeah, it's just, to me, it's the multiple rides. So much so that, cast members knew us, even though we're not at the parks very often. But because we would try to ride it as many times in a day as we could possibly ride it, the cast members started recognizing us. And so when we would come through the line, they'd be like, oh, hey, you're back, and so we'd see them for a few days. And then, so yeah, that's how often we rode Toy Story when it first opened.
favorite ride. All right, so Sunday. This will be our final picture for the week. I have a picture of the Animal Kingdom, just on the bridge over to Pandora.
Oh my goodness.
Staring over at a place that we had not experienced until our last trip, the Nomad Lounge.
Oh, I love the Nomad Lounge.
And I just caught her staring off into the distance, thinking something, I'm sure. Possibly, I'm hungry, but maybe something more profound.
Not really so much profound as I love Animal Kingdom so much. I love the views. I love just the peacefulness that is found in so many locations at this particular park. And because of your obsession with Expedition Everest, I find myself wandering the park a lot. And so I do tend to just kind of stop and take it all in. That's one of my favorite locations because I just think it's so beautiful there. I think that little river that they have created just such a peaceful area to just, I think it's gorgeous. And so, yes, I am staring at scenery at the park a lot.
Yeah, as much as the Pandora area is pretty amazing. That area, the outside of Pandora over in Africa, going towards Africa, is just tremendous. Mm-hmm. Some of the views there in the Harambe area are amazing. And this is kind of like the edge of that walkway over to the other side.
I think if I had any complaint at all about the Nomad Lounge is that I do wish that the chairs were a little higher because it's such a pretty view and it's a little hard to see it. We were right there up against the railing when we were there last time. And so you kind of had to peer between the slats in the little area around there. But it's just so pretty. It's just beautiful. And I love now that they have the barges that go through with the characters. I really hope after we get past COVID and things become go back to normal a little bit, that they don't quit doing that. The characters coming by on the water is just really special. It's another one of those little magical moments that made the trip even more interesting.
It was really special when Santa came by.
Oh, that was cool.
And I took my picture hanging my head over the rail with my phone because They are some pretty deep chairs.
They're very
'Cause-
low to the ground. Yes. And they're comfortable. It was a great place to, I mean, I enjoyed, the food was awesome. And like I said, the view is really cool. And it was very comfortable, but the chairs are very low. They're very low chairs.
And some of us are getting older, and the whole getting out of chairs that are low it's entertaining for others, but it's not the quickest thing just because Santa's floating by.
Right.
Although Santa is pretty awesome. I'm just saying. All right. So no profound thoughts. We'll go on to the final slide in my deck here. And this has been the Figments in Time podcast. If you've liked it, let us know. I don't know exactly where we'll be posting. It's probably on YouTube. Leave us comments. If you love it, tweet, follow us on Twitter, check us out. But we'd like to know how we did, what you think, and we will we'll adjust to meet the needs of all our listeners and viewers.
Hopefully we will improve over time.
Hopefully. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.